So yeah, I went to the Home Depot yesterday, and then I went to Reno Depot, and everything was fine. And then I just wanted to start the car, and nothing at all. It did actually make a little zzz, and then nothing more, and that was it. The car was basically immobilized, and I had to call the tow truck. Nice. So I just realized that I didn't make a video of removing the starter from the engine, so I wanted to give you some steps here to get this done. So it's really not that complicated, but in order to access some of the bolts and the nuts that hold the starter to the engine, you will need to go through some steps. So what has worked for me, and that's what I've seen online as well, is to remove the air box right here. So you don't have to remove these little nuts here. So you see these nuts right there. This is your air box assembly and the air intake. We're gonna take all of this out. Fundamentally, there are screws. There's one screw, I believe, which is a T30 that attaches the airbox to the bottom and to the chassis. So this will be easier to remove. It will make the job easier to remove the whole airbox assembly. So to do that, I actually removed the battery altogether. So you take this little cover off, you take the sleeve off, you disconnect the battery, you remove the battery altogether, and that's going to free up a lot of space already right there. You might not want to do it, and it's up to you, but that will give you access to the T30 that you can then remove. In order to remove the airbox, there is a clamp right there. So you just use a pair of pliers, you move it to the side, remove the air intake connection here, disconnect the MAF, which is at the top right there. And then there is one screw, one T30 that holds the box again to the chassis. Once this is out of the way, you will be able to start working on the starter. So the tools that you need, you only disconnect the battery ideally if you remove it. Obviously, these are 10 millimeters. There is a bracket at the bottom of the battery right in the space here at the bottom. That is a 13 mil bolt. You will be in a better position to access it once the air box is out. And then you can remove the battery altogether if you want to remove it. And then to get access to the bottom, there is you'll have 13 mil nuts as well that hold the main connections to the ground and to the plus that go to the starter. And you will find a connector that also provides power to the solenoid. So this doesn't have a nut or a bolt. It's just there's a little safety latch. You just pull on the latch and just disconnect. And then you'll have to, you can do a few things from the top. So remove the 13 mil for the terminals to the starter. That can be done from the top. But then you will need to get underneath the car in order to get to the lower bolts and nuts that attach the starter to the transmission. These are 18 mil. I really had a hard time to get to the lower one. You want a deep socket ideally, because if you look at the way the bolt is designed, there's a threaded section that actually threads into and bolts into the transmission, and then there is this 18 mil nut that's attached to the bolt, and then there's another threaded section on top of that where the bracket will actually attach to, and this is a 13 mil nut that ends up attaching the bracket to that bolt, and that bolt is then screwed onto the transmission. So you need to get over that section. That's a 13 mil section that's like right at the end of this big bolt. So you need a pretty deep socket to get there. It was a bit of a pain to get to it, but overall it's not a really complicated project. But so 10 mil for the battery terminal if you choose to remove it. 13 mil is going to be required. Just some pick tools to disconnect the connectors. Then 18 mil deep socket. You're going to need that for the two bolts. And then it's pretty straightforward. There's really not much. It will probably take you about half an hour, 45 minutes. You have to crawl under the car. There's a pretty good clearance on this vehicle, so I didn't actually even have to lift it up. If you're on a lift, that's obviously much easier, but it's totally doable. It's what I would call like a driveway project, so I was able to do it on my own in a driveway, so that worked out pretty well. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. That's all I can really think of in terms of the difficulty removing this component. It's actually not too hard. I don't have any other good picture to show you here. So that low cover, you can take that out if it's in the way. Under the engine, I don't have a picture of that. There is this big intercooler air hose pipe that you might want to remove because it's in the way, right? And you don't get a lot of visibility down there. So it's probably would be better to disconnect it, get it out of the way so that you can access the bracket, and you'll get a better sense of once you look at it, you'll see that it actually makes your life a lot easier. So this is it. Let's continue with the video. So yes, this happened. First time the car actually gets on a tow truck, and totally unexpected. And that was the culprit. I was driving the car all day yesterday from different places. Everything was fine. Stopped, restarted it many times up to the point when it refused to start. And if you look closely, well, you'll see that clearly something happened here. Motor is not seized, it spins just fine. The solenoid, however, when you put voltage to it, does not work anymore. And you can tell it's somewhat shorting because when you touch the terminals, it produces a small spark. So there's definitely something going on there. Not with the motor, but with the actual solenoid. So it's a shame really, because I was just in the process of finishing some body work on the car, many different areas of the vehicle, and it basically left me hanging at a home hardware store where I had to call the CAA tow truck. Brought it back here, just took that apart, and I know now that this is the problem. To take it apart, it's not super easy. You have two big bolts, I have them here, that you have to remove. One is underneath the car, you have to access it from under the vehicle. The other one is on top. You can see the connections right here. It's pretty visible. So you have the top one right here, you have the bottom there. You have this bracket that mounts on top, and that's the reason why these bolts actually have kind of two threads. This is the thread that screws into the transmission, and this is the thread on top of this mounting bracket is connected. Okay, so fundamentally it goes like that. It connects into the transmission, and then the bracket connects onto there, and you have a 13mm nut that goes on top. So not super difficult, not super easy either. I'm gonna clean up the terminal here. That's my grounding. It's not necessarily looking super good. I want this to look good because that's the main ground from the transmission, which acts as a ground for the starter to the battery. So I need to make sure this is clean. Other than that, the engine actually looks pretty clean. So these are 18mm. It's metric. This is 13, right? You have to discard the terminal. The little nuts that go on top of that, these are 13 as well. That's metric too. And that's fundamentally all that you need. I did take out the battery because it was much easier for me to work without the battery, just more space overall, and I would suggest you do the same. You remove the battery basket or the platform. It's pretty easy as well too. They're 10mm bolts or nuts, and then you can access the actual starter. So just put the battery back in so that I could lock the car because it does require power. I'll leave I ordered the new starter. This is going to take a few days to come in. Certainly not something I was planning on doing, but the starter apparently is the original. So it's a Valeo. It's dated from 2008, so lasted actually quite a bit. Can't really complain about that. I will leave this project for now until I get the replacement part, and then I will document the process to put everything back together. Alright, so we have received our new starter, and it's fundamentally brand new, even though I actually bought it from warehouse sales on Amazon. So I was looking for different part numbers as a replacement, came across that model here, and there were 2 additional options. You might want to take a look at it when you shop for a part, because occasionally they will be selling returns, right? So parts that were ordered and then returned, and sure enough, came in this box with an LPN number, which usually describes that it is in fact a return. It was described as like new. This is the testing sheet, so everything looks really good. And yeah, fundamentally the starter is brand new and it was never mounted. And I just checked it to make sure the solenoid was working properly. And so I got a battery here with booster cables. I got my ground on the chassis of the starter, and I've got this little pair of pliers that I'm using to touch the contact inside the solenoid, and you should see this. So that basically means that the solenoid is doing what it's supposed to. If you remember, this one was not working anymore, and that's why it's fundamentally dead, and there was actually damage on the ground connection here. So clearly something happened. This one seems to be working just fine, and I could probably even test the motor. It's going to be a little bit harder because I will need to connect both this one and that one at the same time, and I'm only doing this with one hand right now, so it's not really easy. So this one seems like it's working just fine. I will be putting it back. I actually did a bit of cleanup in my engine bay as well while I was at it. It's still wet from the water, so it goes all the way down there. I'm going to put the 2 long bolts back in. These are the ones. So they're 18 mil, right? And they go in this way. And then we're going to put the 13 mil on top of that to attach the bracket. Nothing too complicated. One thing that I will be doing, however, is make sure my ground here is good enough. Because right now it feels like it's a little bit on the rusty side. I need this to be clean. Make sure this is clean here too. This is another 13 mil, by the way. So this is your main grounding to the transmission and to the engine, right? And this connects to the chassis of the car, which ultimately is your ground for the battery, your negative, right? So I'm gonna clean all this up, put the starter back in there, and yeah, give it a crank and see what happens. All right, so everything is put back together. The battery is back in. The starter obviously is all nice and connected. Bracket is reconnected. The connectors are connected. Everything is good. So it's just a matter of finding out. I'm going to put the airbox back in a moment. I will try to see whether the car actually starts. Alright. Okay, well, fingers crossed. Beautiful. Car hasn't run in about a week now. So everything looks good. Turns like a kitten. Did a bit of a cleanup too, so all looks perfect. There's a bit of water there, but it's gonna evaporate as the water warms up. So good, mission accomplished. Really happy. I like the sound of that starter. It actually makes a nice sound. Mission accomplished again. I hope this was helpful. Good luck if you have a similar issue with yours. Alright, stay tuned for more.